This is our number 13, our two-part question. How can companies ensure they comply with copyright regulations when generating images with AI?
Yep. And then how's it evolve? So U.S. Copyright Office on March 16th, 2023 released updated guidance that said a prompt is not authorship, that a human must author something in order to own a copyright on it. This applies to anything you would apply for a copyright for, including articles, anything you've written, website content, brochures, images you generate, including your logo. If you used AI to generate a logo, videos, audio, code, all of it. So currently, their guidance is if you submit something and want a copyright to it, and you cannot claim it if AI generated it. And they're pretty strict on it at the moment. They don't even give much leeway of, yeah, but I edited it a lot, or 20% of it I edited. Then they're basically saying, okay, well, the 20% you edited, you can get a copyright on, but the other 80% you can't. So our assumption is this is going to take years in the legal system. There will be lots of battles fought over this. It will likely evolve. I think the first thing that would evolve is what level of prompt does equal authorship. I think I could see a scenario where the more extensive the prompt, the more detail given, the more human strategy and creativity that goes into the prompt, that they would listen to an argument that that is in fact a form of authorship. And so I think that's probably the first thing that would evolve. I am not an IP attorney, though. I always tell people talk to your IP attorneys about this. And again, if you're using outside agencies, you have to know if they're using AI to generate what they're giving you. So that's the safest bet right now, is assume if you use AI to generate something and you publish that, put it out into the world, becomes fixed in the world, you don't own it. So again, the trick here is you can go into Midjourney, create a logo for your startup, and it may be amazing. And you create that logo and you have commercial rights to it under your agreement with Midjourney. But if AI created it and I know you used AI to do it, I can take it, put it on a baseball hat and start selling it for $20, and you can't do anything about it because you don't actually own the output. Nobody owns it. So it's free reign for me to commercialize it if I want to. So that's where it's just like you really have to be careful here, especially for higher profile things that you really want to protect with a copyright.
But there are some things, we talked about it before, outlines, emails, that you don't care if you can't copyright it.
Social media shares, like, yeah, I mean, again, the IP attorney may not say that. You and I say that. But yes, there are plenty of use cases that have nothing to do with creating a final output that you put out into the world where AI can be used. That's why we often say, like, I don't think about AI writing, like true writing from scratch, starting writing a draft, as even a top 10 use case for me. It's just not what I think about. But we use it for transcription, summarization, outlines, ideation, simplification of content, putting into specific formats, improving the ability for it to drive outcomes. Like, we use it all the time. It has nothing to do with something we couldn't get a copyright on, you know? So it's just knowledge. Like, once you know this stuff, it's like, okay, who do I got to go talk to figure out what this means to us?
Simplification was one I just heard about when I was down at Kent State a few months ago doing guest lecturing. One of the students said he took a chapter of one of his history books. He said, I'm not a history buff. It's a required course. Put it in GPT-4. And he said, can you summarize this for me at,
Seventh grade level or something.
yeah. And he was like, it was great.
Yeah, it does. And
What a great
it's
use case.
incredible at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, do you answer both those? How do you envision the evolution of copyright legislation in the context of large language model AI?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's going to evolve. I think there will be a little bit, other things that become more lenient, I guess, in terms of what is authorship and the significance of the prompt itself, the output. So if I say, write me a 500-word article about language models, and it writes it and I publish it, no way, not getting a copyright for it, and they're not going to change that law, I don't think. If I say, write me an article about large language models, consider the implications on the healthcare industry, look into how, the threats and opportunities for larger enterprises, consider this from the perspective of a brief that's going to be supplied to the CEO, and then it does it. And then I go on and say, okay, now can you make these more concise? Can you condense this into 10 bullet points? Can you, like, that to me is way closer to authorship than, me just asking 7-word prompt, write this thing.
Right.
And I think, maybe there is some precedent here. Again, I haven't really thought this through. And again, I'm not an IP attorney, but some precedent in ghostwriting. Like, a lot of people don't realize this. most books you see written by executives, not ours, I actually wrote my book, but if most books written by CEOs aren't written by the CEOs, they have ghostwriters, whether they acknowledge them or not. There is someone who interviews the CEO, reads everything the CEO has written, said, whatever, all the interviews, and synthesizes that into a book that the CEO hopefully reads or someone on the CEO's team reads and approves. And then you publish and you have a New York Times bestseller by a CEO who never wrote a word of it, but they own the copyright to it. So I think, again, if I put my legal hat on of I've spent a bunch of money with IP attorneys through the years and learned a few things, I could certainly see the argument of we have ghostwriting and the CEO owns the copyright. So how is this different? So I've always said, like, the home run career for the next 10 years is being an IP attorney. Like, there's going to be no lack of work to do in the generative AI space for IP attorneys for the next decade.